Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to show how my Thwomp Drop castle works and also what happens if you let Mario get hit by the thwomps. If you haven't seen me play through it successfully, I'm going to put up a link for the original video of this where Mario just goes through and does a little course. Alright, so first I'll turn it on. Alright, so he gets knocked over pretty good there. So let's take a look at the back. So the core of it is just a roller chain, well, a Technic chain of the style of a roller chain like you'd have on a bicycle. Pretty tight, going over some 16-tooth gears. And at the bottom, each side is driven by a motor with a 5-to-1 gear reduction, a little 8-tooth to a 40-tooth. Let's show that running. So on this side you also have to reverse the direction of the motor. But pretty simple in that regard. One of the important things was to keep a nice rigid structure. So have this basically 6 deep structure for supporting the chains and basically the channel that the thwomps drop in, which I'll show the profile of that, as well as some additional support here for the center and where Bowser sits. The main wall itself is just 2 studs thick, but obviously it's a little risky to just rely on that without this additional depth to reinforce it. So essentially you have this kind of T-shaped channel, and the thwomp slides in there. Has kind of H shape to it that allows it to grip these walls on both sides. So it's securely sliding up and down there. Now I've disengaged this one. The way it grabs the chain is via a wrench piece, which took some trial and error to figure out, but it works very well. And there's these 2 beams that relate to each other through a set of gears, such that when you push the one, the other goes in and out. Right, so when it hits the bottom after it falls, pushes this out, and this wrench grabs onto the chain and rides it up. And then what happens at the top is the gear actually pushes it out. So to demonstrate a little further how that works, right, here's a chain. The wrench rather, is going to hook into it pretty securely. But when it gets up to the top, the teeth of the gear are going to push out, right? Because teeth of the gear are in there, in the gaps between the rungs of the chain. So that will push out the kind of claws of the wrench there. And push this back just a little bit, just enough that it will be able to fall down to the bottom and then get re-engaged when it hits the bottom limit. So the inside of this is somewhat complicated just because you need to support these beams well. Make sure that they don't have too much play. But other than that, you know, there's just 2 gears on an axle in there, and as one goes up, it spins the axle, and the other gear next to it pushes the other one in and out. So although the face is the same and the sides, the interior of this is really nothing like the ones that come in the one that comes in the set. And somewhat similar to the set, I have this limit at the bottom with these rubber Technic lift arm pieces that absorb some of the impact, and the arm mechanism hits this piece to engage it. Now, one thing that I found, it's engaged now, but you can push on the top to disengage it. One thing I found was a little bit difficult, I didn't really expect, was that the tolerance of the bricks is not perfect. And they'll actually find some little rough spots where some bricks are a little bit bigger, or really more like just a little bit to the left or right over the studs. There's a little variation, and so you'll hit some ridges from that. So there's a couple places where I had to swap out a brick for one with a better tolerance, so that it just wouldn't grind too much on the walls as it went up and down. And that's also why I ended up putting these slopes on here, on there, and the inverted slopes on the bottom, just to help it kind of glide over the bumps a little bit better, even though this slope surface was not actually riding. Well, it is riding against a wall, but this wall is riding against just a straight wall. But still, I think kind of even being adjacent to it, you get a little bit of rubbing on the inside and the outside. So just trying to you know, smooth out any interaction as much as possible. I guess one other thing I mentioned is that, well, this one is just a sticker, right? So you can probably tell it's a little bit lighter, not quite as high contrast, but I only bought one set. There's not too many of these tiles on Bricklink yet, so let's reproduce it. Well, there you go, that's how it works. Hope you enjoyed watching, and let me know what other kind of LEGO Mario mechanisms you're working on. Thanks!